Right, ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker will give us a bit of insight on the challenges that this sport has had over the last year and the international implications it had and all the people they had to talk to, negotiate, almost ending in a court at some stage. Almost. Right, but we introduced to you Lisa de Speville, beautiful French surname, but a beautiful South African lady. Lisa, you've got the floor.
All right, hi everyone. We've had quite a journey over this last year, so I'd like to tell you a little bit about the formation of the International Adventure Racing Federation, Association, and where we are, and what's taken us there. So I'm going to take you through a bit of a timeline, and we should have enough time at the end for some question and answer. So adventure racing has been very much a Wild West, ungovernable, wild sport. And adventure racing likes to be under that banner. You know, the people who take part are very much free-spirited, where we feel unconstrained. And even though the referees speak about rules in the race, of course they're rules, but it is an event of wild abandon. And so being constrained within a hierarchical structure like we have in organized sports is something that adventure racing has strayed very, very far away from. You know, we've got a mishmash of people that come through from different disciplines, and they seem to really enjoy being within the adventure racing environment that has none of that. There have been past attempts over the years to create international federations, and it's been really resisted by the adventure racing community, who hasn't seen any reason for it. And of course things change, times change, and so we're looking ahead. In the timeline, so what happened in February this year, a meeting was called by World Obstacle to discuss forming a formation of a technical committee. On the sort of word spread over a couple of days, and on a Zoom meeting there were about 100 racers and people involved in the sport who jumped onto it. In terms of the meeting, it was a very long meeting, and at the end of it, the adventure racing community, they resisted the formation of a technical committee. They didn't want it to happen. And part of the reasoning behind that was also that the technical committee would be under World Obstacle and would then mean that the sport was, I guess, more entrenched underneath World Obstacle. What the people did agree to in the meeting is that they wanted a formation of a working group. And what the working group would do was to go out, discuss with the community, and find out what type of support there was for the formation of an international association. For my sins, I suggested that a poll, I was just attending the meeting, I suggested that a poll would be a great idea. And because of that, I ended up on the working group. The working group, the core working group, was made up of me, here from South Africa, Cormac MacDonald from Ireland, Damon Dubois, who's here as well today, he was racing, he's from the UK, and Lars, who you saw the presentation from Denmark. The four of us, over the next couple of weeks, we then networked out to contact adventure racing countries. Now, of course, our Wild West sport has only, at that stage, 10 countries that had established national organizations. So now we're trying to network out to another 28 countries that are involved in adventure racing to find contacts and to network out to these people who were tasked with communicating with their communities in their countries. I jumped ahead. Sorry about that. Okay, so we networked out to them. The first step that they were tasked with was speaking to their countries, creating a poll in their countries, and then feeding that back to us. We collected the results from 23 countries, and sort of in the breakdown, we had 10 countries with national associations, 6 with active adventure racing communities, long-established active adventure racing communities, 5 countries with small but active communities, and there were 2 communities on the list that actually have no adventure racing activities or participants or events in their country, but they were under the list. We then presented the results that we collated in a Zoom meeting to the communities, And as you can see from the results, the majority of it was that the community voted to create their own International Adventure Racing Association. Of course, there was quite a leaning towards as well of having partnerships with other federations, and these main ones would be things, especially with orienteering being so closely related, row gaining, mountain biking, but that in different countries they wanted to have develop different relationships. Of course, the challenge with this is you can't really have a relationship as an international representation relationship unless you have an international body to have that relationship. Okay, so the two and three are pretty much combined. The main reasons that we had coming through for being an independent association, and first of all not being under World Obstacle, is that adventure racing is not obstacle racing, and the community didn't feel like they fitted in or that they were represented by that. Words coming through in feedback very much about unique, that adventure racing is a unique sport. It's the people within it that know, that understand their sport, and they should be representing it. And that there's a desire coming from the community to create an organization that suits and that represents the sport. So with this decision made that now we need to go forward, we then set up, we've had various meetings with countries, and thank you very much, countries and people that are sitting here that have been involved in participating, thank you very much. So with the decision made, we then needed to work on a plan for how we were going to take this forward. So thanks again also to the working group who's been amazing. We've had lots of other people slotting in at various intervals along the process. So in June we met and we decided on the sort of structure of how we're going to carry on, and we created 2 task groups. The task groups had to look at the vision, the mission, the definition, and a sort of member validation process as a sort of starting foundation. In July we met again and all of these were reviewed, and then we moved ahead with developing a draft constitution. The draft constitution was sent out for comment, it was then tweaked, it was expanded, and then we put it out for signing by the 12 countries with established adventure racing national organizations, and we also put it out to the observer countries. So we call them observers. Observers are the countries like South Africa, like the UK, like Australia, like New Zealand. These are countries with very strong, active adventure racing participation, but they don't have national representative bodies. So we put the draft constitution out to all of these countries, and we had pretty much all the signings were in by the beginning of October. And now we are here. So this sort of takes us up to the point of where we are now at the moment. The conference has been a fantastic thing, and to be able to present here to tell people that this association is in progress, it is happening, it is being created by the adventure racing community, and to feed on to our next step. And the next step is that we need the adventure racing community, not only those with established organizations, but also those who have strong representation in adventure racing and a lot of involvement. Our next step after this conference, when we get back home, is that we will put out a call for nominations. And this is a call for nominations for people to be on the interim committee for the International Association. We're calling it an interim committee because there is still a lot of groundwork that has to be done over the next year in terms of rules, policies, guidelines. All of these foundations need to be built, and that's the work of the interim committee going forward. At the end of a year, we then have the first major AGM, and then ongoing for a 2-year committee will then be voted in. So there's still quite a bit of a way to go, but that's where we are at the moment. So the big thing comes in, and a lot of you will be sitting here saying, well, we've been fine for 35 years. Why do we need an association now? So I said times have changed, and it's sort of we need to catch up with looking at a positioning on the international stage, both at having a representative body. Let's say that orienteering or mountain biking or any of the other disciplines that are pulled into adventure racing, they need to contact someone. Who do they contact? there's many countries where they have a lot of input from their government, from their national sports structures that will give funding, provide funding, whether it's for youth or events, tourism bodies, all of those things. But they need national associations, and they need national associations to be linked to an international body. That's another reason. Through this whole process, it's actually been so exciting for the working group and for the countries involved. We've been able to really unite and bring together countries who are talking, who are sharing experiences, and all of this falls underneath an international body that people can interact more through and connect with to share their experiences and knowledge. Obviously, adventure racing is closely linked to many disciplines, and it's through an international structure that we're able to bring in more expertise, link closer to these international bodies, and actually have official international partnerships with them. Rules, regulations, policies, of course, these things all fall under international federations, and one of the major functions of the international body is to service and support the national members. One of our big goals for the next year coming up is to get more national bodies, so countries even like us here in South Africa, we've long been in adventure racing. We have very strong local structures in terms of events, but we don't have a national body. So when the international body needs to reach out to countries, who do they speak to? So that's one of our big objectives for this year ahead. One of the major things we had, and I can use and quote the words from Pedro in Portugal, is that yes, adventure racing is unique. We all, it's this mismatch amalgamation, and the structure that we create is being created with innovation and creativity. It doesn't have to be like every other international federation for single discipline or multidiscipline sports. We have the freedom to be able to create things that service us, service our needs, and service our requirements. Over this next year, even though we will be looking to elect an interim committee in, we will have various task groups throughout the world. We have wonderful levels of expertise and knowledge, and it's those task groups that we'll be bringing in for specific functions that we're looking at developing. If you'd like to get hold of us, arcountries@gmail.com. Of course, many of you, if you direct things through to Cormac or myself, there's communications going out. We do have a messenger group, an International Adventure Racing Countries messenger group. If you would like to be on that group, please, you can come and chat to me, throughout the rest of the day, and you can also just drop us an email, and we will make sure that you're on those groups and you're getting the communications. And especially for countries where you don't have official structures. We're needing to talk to you, we're needing you to talk to your communities, and we'd like to help you along the process. If anybody has questions, I think we've still got a bit of time for questions. Not really? Okay. Alright, so that's where we are, and that's where it's happening at the moment.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thanks to Lisa.
Take some questions. Does World Obstacle know about the International Association?
Yes, World Obstacle does. Throughout, especially the beginning of the process, we did a lot of communication with them, and of course we attended all the meetings that they hosted. Once the results were in from the countries, we presented the results. We had a Zoom meeting with Ian Adamson. We presented the results to him. He said, and also we requested that adventure racing was removed from World Obstacle, considering that the community doesn't want it there. He said it had to be voted through to Congress. The Congress meeting happened. Of course, they don't want to be a predatory federation, and they don't want to govern a sport that doesn't want to be governed. And despite the sport not wanting to be governed by World Obstacle, they still present themselves as the governing body of adventure racing, and it's still all on their website. So that's where we are with that.
Lisa, what's the relationship between AWRS and A1? How does that fit together?
All right, so our World Series and A1 are a very important part of the sport. They're event organizing companies, and they're responsible for various series of races, which is critical in the sport. But they exist outside of an international federation. The members of an international federation are the national organizations of countries. So the Brazil Adventure Racing Organization, and Denmark, and all of those guys. Those are members. The Adventure Racing World Series and A1 exist outside. It's a bit like Ironman and triathlon. Ironman's an event series, and the International Triathlon Association is a governing body structure. So A1 and IARA World Series in particular, people think that IARA World Series, they're the governing body. No, they are not. They never have been, and they never will be. They're an event organizing company.